I've spent my entire adult life trying to forget that night. But memory doesn't fade when a single moment splits your life into before and after. And that night, the night everything changed for me. I was only 8 years old. People say childhood ends slowly, one birthday at a time, one lesson at a time. But mine ended in a single hour, a single sound, a single look. Before that night, I was just a kid with small fears and smaller dreams. The world felt predictable, safe. The creaking of old floorboards meant nothing. The wind at the window was just wind. And my parents, the two people who held my world together, they always smiled when they looked at me. Until that evening, I remember walking into the living room after dinner. My mother froze when she saw me, her smile stiff and wrong, as if she'd forgotten how to move her face. My father, usually calm, had been pacing in slow circles, the kind of pacing adults do when they think children aren't watching. Even at 8, I knew something was off. Something in the house felt heavier, quieter, as if it were holding its breath. I asked, "Is everything okay?" And the way my mother answered, too quickly, too softly, told me everything was not okay. That was the first moment I felt it. A tiny crack in the world I trusted. Later that night when I lay in bed, the quiet felt wrong. It wasn't silence. It was waiting. The air pressed against my skin like unseen hands. Shadows stretched in ways shadows shouldn't. Every sound, every tick, every breath felt amplified, like the house was listening to me. I didn't understand it then. I was a child, but the adult I am now can finally name that feeling. Something else was in the house. Something my parents already knew about. Something they hoped I would never see. But childhood doesn't end when you discover monsters. It ends when you realize the adults knew they were real all along. And that night, when my mother refused to meet my eyes, and my father locked every door twice, and the house shifted with a sound I still hear in my dreams. That was the night I stopped being a child. I just didn't know it yet. The strangest part isn't what happened to me that night. It's what happened to my parents. When I look back now as an adult, I can see it clearly. Their fear had started long before mine ever did. I just didn't notice it yet. That evening, everything in the house felt slightly wrong. My mother kept glancing toward the hallway, the way someone glances at a door they hope won't open. My father double-checked the deadbolt, then checked it again, even though he never did that. He kept muttering to himself, "Just one more night, just one more night," as if he needed to convince the house of something. And I was still a child. Children don't understand tension. We absorb it. I sat at the kitchen table drawing with my crayons. Every few minutes, my mother would flinch at a noise I couldn't hear. Whenever I asked her what was wrong, she'd force a smile so tight it looked painful. At some point, my father pulled her aside. They whispered in the living room, too quiet for me to hear, but loud enough for my imagination to fill in the silence. I remember my heartbeat picking up for no real reason. Fear doesn't always need a monster. Sometimes it just needs a room full of adults pretending nothing is wrong. Later, when I went to brush my teeth, I saw my mother standing at the end of the hallway, not moving, not speaking, just staring toward my bedroom door. I said, "Mom?" She startled, actually startled, like I'd touched her from behind instead of calling her name. She walked toward me quickly, bent down, cupped my face, and whispered, "Go to sleep early tonight. Don't get out of bed, no matter what you hear." No matter what you hear, children don't forget sentences like that. That night, I lay in bed listening to the house breathe. Something scraped against the hallway floor. Not a step, not quite a drag. Something between them. I thought about calling for my mother, but the house felt like it was holding its breath again, and I didn't want to break it. At some point, I realized something terrifying. My parents weren't checking on me anymore. They weren't watching over me. They were hiding. And the moment you realize the adults are hiding, that's when childhood starts slipping away. The night everything truly changed didn't begin with a scream. It began with a silence so heavy, it felt like the house itself was listening. I woke up without knowing why. No nightmare, no noise, just awareness. Like someone had whispered my name in a dream, and the echo had followed me into waking. My room looked the same as always. The toy box in the corner, the posters on the wall, the soft glow of the hallway nightlight leaking in under the door. But something was wrong with the air. It felt crowded, full, as if I wasn't the only one breathing. I pulled my blanket to my chin and held still, listening. For a long time there was nothing. Then, like a ripple breaking the surface of a lake, I heard it. A footstep, soft, slow, too close. I sat up in bed, my heart thudding so loud it drowned out the silence. The step came again, not from the hallway, not from outside, but from inside my room. "Mom?" I whispered. No answer. Only another step, dragging lightly across the floorboards, as if someone was testing how much sound they were allowed to make. I turned my head toward the corner, the one shadowed spot the nightlight could never reach. Something stood there. I didn't see its face. I didn't see its shape fully. But a child doesn't need to see a monster to know one is there. The darkness in the corner felt aware of me, like it had been waiting, like it had finally found the right moment to step forward. I froze. My throat closed. Every instinct screamed to run to my mother, but my body refused to move. That's the thing no one tells you about childhood fear. It doesn't make you flee. It roots you to the ground and steals your voice. The shadow leaned slightly, as if tilting its head. Curious, patient, learning me. That's when it happened. A whisper, too soft to be real, too close to be imagined. "I know you're awake." My blood turned cold. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a growl. It was gentle, as if the darkness had finally learned my name and wanted to try speaking it. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the whisper came again. "I've been waiting." And in that moment, I understood, with the clarity only terror can bring. This wasn't a fear I had imagined. This wasn't a child's misunderstanding. Something in that room knew me. And from that night forward, I was no longer just a child. I was a target. The morning after that whisper, nothing looked different. And yet everything felt different. The sunlight in my room didn't feel warm. The hallway didn't feel safe. Even my toys looked like they were trying to avoid the corner where I'd seen the shadow. I tried to pretend nothing had happened. Children are good at that. We're taught to bounce back, to play, to forget. But some nights carve themselves into you. When I went down for breakfast, my mother was standing by the sink, gripping the counter as if the house were moving. She didn't welcome me with a smile. She didn't even turn around. She only said in a thin voice, "Did you sleep?" Not, "How did you sleep?" Not, "Did something wake you up?" Just, "Did you sleep?" Like the answer mattered more than the truth. I told her yes, a lie so heavy I could feel it in my stomach. She nodded, relieved. And then the relief vanished so quickly it made me pause. "Don't tell your father anything," she whispered. Why? What was she afraid he'd hear? That day at school, everything felt too loud. Chairs scraping, kids shouting, teachers calling names. Every sound made me flinch. I kept expecting the whisper from the night before to thread itself through the noise. By the time I got home, the house felt even heavier. My father had come home early. He was in the hallway, staring at my bedroom door with a face I had never seen on him before. A mix of anger and fear, like he'd lost an argument with something he couldn't see. When he noticed me watching, he forced a smile, but his eyes didn't follow. "Your mom said you slept fine," he said. It wasn't a question, it was a test. And suddenly I understood something awful. My parents weren't protecting me from the truth. They were protecting themselves from it. That night, before going to bed, I stood in the doorway of my room and listened. Not for the shadow, not for the whisper, for the house. The walls creaked softly, but the creaking wasn't random. It felt responsive, attentive. And then the floorboard beside my bed dipped, lightly as if someone had just placed their weight on it. I froze. Nothing moved. No breath, no whisper. Just that silent pressure on the wood. The house shifting around something it had started recognizing too. Me. That was the night I realized the horror wasn't just in the corner of my room. It was in the walls, in the floors, in my parents' silence, in every space that used to feel safe. The house wasn't just where I lived anymore. It was where something was learning to live with me. There's a moment in every childhood when you realize your parents aren't unbreakable. Mine came quietly, so quietly that I didn't understand what was happening until years later. It started with the way my mother looked at me. Not at me, through me, like she was checking whether something else was standing behind my eyes. She avoided meeting my gaze for more than a second. She handed me my breakfast without speaking. And whenever I entered a room, she stiffened, as if my presence meant something dangerous had followed me in. That morning, I dropped my spoon on purpose, just to see if she would react. She flinched like I'd shattered a window. "Mom?" I asked. She didn't answer. Her breath quickened. Her hands trembled as she picked up her mug. And when she finally spoke, her voice sounded as if it had been borrowed from someone else. "Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" I asked. She backed away from me, actually stepped back, as if distance could protect her from whatever she thought she saw. My father wasn't any better. He started closing the curtains earlier and earlier. He unplugged the nightlight in the hallway, claiming it was broken. But I knew better. He didn't want anything to see anymore. One night, as I was brushing my teeth, I caught my parents whispering again. This time, they weren't careful enough. "What if it's him?" my father said. "It's not him," my mother insisted. "It's not. It's just attached to him." Attached. Kids don't forget words like that. Attached to me? When I went to bed that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. If something had attached itself to me, did that mean the shadow had chosen me? Had it been waiting for me? As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, a soft tap echoed against my door. Not a knock, not a scrape. A tap, like someone testing whether I was awake. My mother's voice followed, shaky, uneven. "Please, don't open it." But here's the part that truly ended my childhood. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to whatever was standing on the other side. And it answered. Not with words, but with another gentle tap. Patient, rhythmic, almost polite. That was when I realized the truth. My mother wasn't afraid of the dark anymore. She was afraid of me, or rather, of what might be using me to get closer to her. There are distances that feel normal in a home. The space between a chair and a wall, between a bed and a closet, between a parent and a child. But that night, every distance in my room collapsed. I woke to the sound of breathing. Not mine, not human. A slow, uneven inhale, followed by a wet, trembling exhale. I froze. The kind of freeze that doesn't come from fear of being hurt, but fear of being noticed. My eyes adjusted to the dark, and that's when I realized the breathing was coming from the foot of my bed. Something stood there. I couldn't see its face. I couldn't even see a body, just a dim outline, a distortion of the air, as if the darkness itself had thickened. It leaned closer. I felt the mattress tighten under my legs, as though something invisible was placing weight on it. I wasn't imagining it. The bed actually shifted. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The thing, or whatever shape it wore, moved again, slowly, curiously, like a child discovering a new toy. Then I felt it. A hand, cold, thin, resting on my ankle, not squeezing, not pulling, touching, testing. My childhood ended in that single touch. The door burst open. My mother gasped first. A sharp, broken sound. My father grabbed her arm to keep her from collapsing. I had never seen adults look that powerless. My father whispered, "He's awake. It shouldn't be this close when he's awake." It, not he, not she, not someone. It. My mother called my name, but her voice cracked halfway through, as if she wasn't sure whether I was still me. The hand on my ankle pulled away, not in fear, in disappointment, as if I had ruined something. The shape drifted backward, dissolving into the shadows by the closet door. My father slammed the door shut. My mother scooped me into her arms with a trembling urgency that bordered on panic. But she wouldn't look at me, not once. That's when I realized she wasn't holding me because she wanted to comfort me. She was holding me so it couldn't take me back. And deep down, part of me wondered if it already had. If childhood ends in a moment, mine ended the morning after that night. I walked into the kitchen expecting the world to feel normal again. Sunlight, breakfast, my mother humming, the safe rhythm of an ordinary day. But she wouldn't look at me, not once. She stood at the stove, her back stiff, her shoulders locked in an unnatural tension. I said, "Mom?" She didn't answer. I stepped closer. She flinched, a sharp, instinctive recoil, as if my voice had brushed her skin like a cold hand. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't what? Don't speak. Don't come near her. Don't exist." She finally faced me, or tried to. Her eyes aimed somewhere near my face, but never at it. It was as if she was afraid to see something, afraid she might see it instead of me. That was the moment I realized. She no longer trusted what stood in front of her. She didn't trust that it was her child. She placed a trembling hand on the counter to steady herself. "You should stay in your room today," she said quietly. "That's not my room anymore," I answered. The words slipped out before I could stop them. My mother froze. I think she heard the truth in my voice, that maybe I think every adult has a moment they carry like a scar. A point in time where something inside them shifts, quietly but permanently. For me, that moment came the night my mother finally broke. It was past midnight. I was lying in bed, pretending to sleep, when I heard her footsteps outside my door. Not hurried, not soft, but hesitant, like she was afraid of what she might see. "Sweetheart," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the second syllable. I didn't answer. The doorknob turned slowly and she slipped inside without turning on the light. What terrified me wasn't that she came in. It was that she stayed by the wall, far from my bed, as if there was an invisible boundary she didn't dare cross. "I know you're awake." Her whisper trembled. "You've been awake for days." I sat up. Her breath hitched the same way it had when she first realized there was something wrong with my face earlier that week. "Mama," I said. She shook her head violently. "Don't call me that." Her voice broke again. Not with that voice. That voice? It was my voice. But when I repeated "Mom," I heard it too. An echo beneath my own tone, a slightly deeper resonance, as if someone were speaking through me from a few inches behind my ribs. My mother pressed herself harder against the wall. "He's in you," she whispered. "The thing from the closet. He found a way in." I felt something shift inside my chest then. A tightness, a pressure, like a small hand pressing from the inside. My mother covered her mouth and sobbed silently. "I should have kept the door open," she said. "I should have listened when it started." Before I could speak again, the closet door behind me clicked. Not loudly, just knowingly. My mother's eyes widened at something she saw over my shoulder. "Don't turn around," she begged. "If you turn around, childhood ends. You won't come back from it." But the thing is, childhood had already ended. When I finally turned, the closet was open wider than ever, and a small silhouette stood in the doorway. My height, my shape, my posture, but not me. The other me tilted its head to the side, the same way my reflection had earlier that day, and smiled. A stretched, wrong smile, as if my bones had been rearranged inside someone else's skin. My mother screamed, not loud but broken. I didn't scream, because a child only screams when he believes someone can save him. And that night, I knew no one could.